Hi, this is Tom Broussard. It's nice to see everybody. It's Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. The title of this article and this video is Aphasia Recovery and the Hill We Climb Together. It's inspired by the National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we had the inauguration and she had that opportunity to speak with us. And that sort of triggered everything that I wrote about for this particular article. When I had my stroke and I was having a difficult time being able to express what I wanted to say, I kept a diary, you might remember, and a lot of the diary, it turned out to be a 500-page diary, and the first 200 pages didn't make much sense. But I did write lots of graphs, charts, and metaphorical drawings that did make a lot of sense. It turns out that if I'd ever showed that to my therapist, and I didn't, she would have said, oh, that's what Tom was thinking. That's what I was thinking. But it didn't come out with words that made sense, but these drawings did. And I drew a series of mountains, and I put aphasia spelled out with each mountain. So A-H-A-A-S-I-N-S-I-A. So I wrote that way, and it looked like a mountain. And various pictures you had seen, one in particular on this article, you could see letters tumbling down the mountain. On the inside, that's what I felt, that whatever had happened with my language and the words and even the letters had been damaged. The way it felt to me was that they were at the top of a mountain and they just came tumbling down. And I could see them that way, and I wrote it that way. And I could also see that some of those words and letters didn't make it all the way down. They would stop halfway down or whatever. And I was beginning to understand that that also meant that I wasn't quite as damaged with some modalities and some words and letters and sentences than others. So all of that was on the inside. It was as if I had my own personal SLP who would explain everything that was happening on the inside, neurologically, what was happening. But of course, I was the only one in there, other than a few times when it was more than just me. But listening to myself and beginning to understand how the brain works. As I continued to figure it out on the inside, a large part of that then was looking for those what were considered lost words, and then word finding is the way the SLPs typically refer to that. Word finding, trying to find the words that can't be found. And of course, along the years, I figured out that the words really weren't lost as much as they were damaged enough that they hadn't gotten to the critical mass that allows one be able to express in any number of modalities. That means any number of different critical masses of that modality to move from being unable to being able to speak, read, write about a certain idea, thought, whatever. And it all depends on how, not only where the stroke is, but also how each modality is damaged in its own quite unique, different way. Many different facets of what damage looks like from the inside as well as on the outside. But in all cases, I knew that after a while, I say a while, a couple of years, figuring out that the pursuit of finding those words, pursuit was the effort. That is how you get better, is the active verbs that enable you to be motivated enough because you need to, want to, pursue, chase. That's how it works with the brain. So while watching the inauguration, I listened to the poet, and I thought poet is a poet, and just listened to what she was going to say. And I don't remember a whole lot. It was only took 5 or 6 minutes for her to talk. And about halfway through, maybe not even halfway, I heard her say the words, the hill we climb. And I perked up because the hill we climb was the hill I always had inside of me in terms of that mountain that I had lost my language. It came tumbling down. I had to climb back up. And at the time of my stroke, I did have the experience of falling off a cliff and climbing back up to describe what I had seen. As I used to say, down there. I could see the damage and was lucky enough to climb back up and explain it to other people. Of course, explaining to other people means you have to improve your language enough to be able to explain to others what it was that I could see. So it's taken almost 10 years. Maybe another 10 years, I'll be as good as I could have been. But it does take a long time to be able to build up or to rebuild your lexicon and your language to be able to express it in a way that lets other people go, oh, that's what I felt, even if they can't necessarily express it either before their stroke and unable to express, or now can express better, but not as well as they would like. So I'm trying to provide that information so that everybody can better understand. Not to say it's perfect, but can better understand the way the brain really does work. So I watched the poet when she said, the hill we climb, and then she said, if only we dare. I said, oh, she's talking to us, as it were. I mean, that's how excited I was the way she was talking. And of course, she was talking about all the hills the country has to go through, has been through, and will continue to go through going forward. But I really did appreciate what she had to say. So that's why I ended up writing this particular article right at the moment, because I could actually see my own hill that had to be climbed. And it wasn't just me getting better. This really turns out to be not me getting better. Oh, that's part of the hill we all have to climb, but really realizing, and that's why I added the together, is that our community, the wider public, as well as the healthcare community, still don't use the word aphasia as part of their day-to-day lexicon. The medical community does know the word aphasia, but they don't use it on a regular basis. So that's another hill we have to climb, and that's what I'm now talking about here. Given that there are millions of people with aphasia, but incredibly small number of people are aware about aphasia and what that really means. So I started 5 years ago with my own, campaign to help people better understand what I call the aim high for aphasia, which I've been doing since 2015, given what Ms. Gorman talked about in terms of the ongoing ascent for all of us, whatever the hill might be. We all have to climb higher, even if it's metaphorically, of what it is we have to do. And in my case, and in our case, we have to continue to do the best we can to educate the wider public. And now this next 5 years, the last 5 years being getting to this point, the next 5, adding a new part of my signature where I had been the author and advocate. I'm adding one more, and that's activist. We have to work hard on figuring out, engaging the wider public and educating the wider public about aphasia, and helping too with the healthcare community who do know what aphasia is. Obviously, the SLP knows it very, very well. The rehab facilities know it very, very well. But it does turn out that many, many hospitals, including some big and large hospitals that are stroke centers at many states, do not use the word aphasia. And I say do not, meaning if you go to their search box and you put in the word aphasia, it'll come out and say, I'm sorry, we don't know what that is. That can't be. The fact that that is the case is true. If you asked any number of people in the hospitals, they'll say, we can tell you what aphasia is, and they'll try to explain it as if it's from a dictionary or what they have learned a little bit. But it turns out, like I say, in my experience, that the staff do not use the aphasia lexicon as a day-to-day conversation. They might very well say, oh, we have a patient here talking to the family, not speaking well, can't find the word. That's all part of what aphasia is, but aphasia has means on a day-to-day basis. So you will not find it from aphasia at the hospitals. And in my particular case, I went home 6 days later with a piece of paper that said, go to the rehab hospital. And of course, in that list, it said aphasia, many other disorders, of which I couldn't pronounce any of them, nor read any of them, nor knew what aphasia was at the time. But it took another month, and that's a whole month without anything to do. And that is why I wrote the ABCs of aphasia, so that when people have stroke and aphasia, they get handed. I've been donating my copies of this to many hospitals, asking the hospitals, the presidents who get it, and the SLPs to hand this to everybody who has stroke and or aphasia, because 30 to 40% of people with stroke get aphasia, right? So that's a huge component of the disabled community that are aphasia, and they got it from the stroke, yet the stroke community won't discuss it or talk about it going forward. And if you wait for a month before you get into a therapeutic situation, that's a whole month that you could learn a little bit more, if not a lot more, about something like this that nobody has ever had before. That one piece of paper that says basically go to the website and find out about aphasia. Sure, that's one way to do it, but having it physically in your hand allows the person who otherwise can't do much, they can at least see the pictures and begin to understand what I only could do with pictures. So you can better understand it going forward. And then, yes, build up your lexicon, as it were, your awareness lexicon. And when you finally get to the speech language therapist, then you begin to understand it based on what you have, when you have something like this. So and hopefully, again, contributing to the wider public and education through the hospitals, who really, this should be another tool that they can hand into everybody. And if there are millions and millions of people with stroke, that means millions and millions of people also have aphasia, with that kind of a factor of people that are disabled in that way. So the fact that we have to climb that hill, as the poet said, we have to climb our own hill in terms of what we personally had to go through with losing our language. But even more than that, as we continue to improve our language, then we have to educate the wider public and the healthcare community about the lexicon of aphasia and better understand how not only how the brain works, but the fact that the brain works, whether you're damaged or not, using this capacity called plasticity, which just happens to be this property that all people have all the time. This is how you learn. If you're learning a new math equation, that is plasticity. You are learning. Plasticity being the foundation for learning. And the same thing works with people with stroke and aphasia in terms of being able to readapt and repair the language they once had. So we have to take that as a next step. This is a hill we have to climb. I am glad that she said what she had to say, because it definitely inspired me to write more about the fact that it isn't just us individually at all. It is us having this capacity, almost having this gift, to be able then to explain to others how you can learn new things as well, based on this practice by which we got better going forward. So we can continue to enlist everyone as part of the hill that we all have to climb, and we have to climb it together. Thank you very much. I appreciate seeing everybody, and I will see you in a couple more weeks with some more articles coming forward about aphasia and recovery. Nice to see everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.